Good evening, you're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Farhana Sheikh. US President Donald Trump marked the first 100 days in office of his second term with a rally just outside of Detroit. He celebrated the milestone with a campaign-style speech touting his administration's achievements and targeting political foes.
And we're here tonight in the heartland of our nation to celebrate the most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of our country, and that's according to many, many people. This is the best, they say, 100-day start of any president in history, and everyone is saying it. We've just gotten started. You haven't even seen anything yet. It's all just kicking in.
At the rally, Trump dismissed opinion polls indicating his popularity had fallen as fake. Speaking at the hub of America's automotive industry, he claimed car firms were queuing to set up new manufacturing plants in the Midwestern state. He also touted progress on immigration, citing decreasing encounters at the southern border that have dropped from 140,000 to just over 7,000.
Nothing will stop me in the mission to keep America safe again. It's very simple. Keep America safe again. And our first 100 days have also produced historic results in the battle to defeat Biden's inflation disaster and bring jobs and wealth back to America and bring them back to Michigan, okay? We want to bring it back.
US President Donald Trump called newly elected Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney to congratulate him on his recent victory. The two have also agreed to meet in the near future following Monday's vote.
Canada and the US are expected to enter talks about a new economic and security relationship. Trump's trade tariffs and repeated comments on Canada's sovereignty had overshadowed the race, which ended with Carney's Liberals winning a minority government. Shortly after declaring victory, Carney vowed Canada would never yield to the US, sending a message of unity. The Liberal Party leader has promised action on a range of domestic issues, spanning from the country's housing crisis and tax cuts for lower and middle-income Canadians. The Prime Minister also needs to prepare for the G7 summit in June, which Canada will be hosting in the province of Alberta. He is predicted to choose his new cabinet in the weeks leading up to Parliament's scheduled return in late May.
We'll go for a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Susah hati bila rambut rosak? Pulihkan rambut anda dengan gabungan shampoo dan perapi Pantene. Dengan formula Pro Vitamin B5 dan Collagen, lebih 10 kali membaiki kerosakan. Jatuh cinta dengan rambut anda yang berkilat dan bernutrisi. Gunakan Pantene.
Daulat Tuanku.
Amazon says it had considered showing import charges on its low-cost haul platform in response to new US tariffs. However, they denied any such plan for its main website after the White House accused it of a politically motivated move.
The Seattle-based retailer spent the morning pushing back on a Punch Bowl news report, claiming it would display tariff-inclusive prices on Amazon.com. Amazon says that its discount platform haul had considered showing import fees on selected inexpensive China-made products, but the proposal was ultimately rejected and never approved. The confusion initially prompted a 2% drop in Amazon shares. A White House official said President Donald Trump personally called Amazon founder and executive chairman Jeff Bezos to complain about the Punch Bowl news report. Since Trump took office, he has imposed sweeping tariffs, including a 145% increase on Chinese goods, sending many corporations scrambling. Amazon's haul site, similar to popular low-cost site Temu, relies heavily on Chinese imports and offers longer shipping times in exchange for lower prices and is particularly susceptible to these tariffs.
China has created a list of US-made products that would be exempted from its 125% tariffs. Currently, Chinese officials are quietly notifying companies affected by the policy shift as Beijing seeks to ease the impact of its trade war with Washington.
China has already granted tariff exemptions on items like pharmaceuticals, microchips and aircraft engines, and is asking firms to flag other critical items they need levy-free. The full exemption list remains undisclosed, and the existence of this so-called whitelist had not been previously reported, according to sources. This low-profile approach allows China to offer concessions while maintaining its public stance, insisting it will not back down unless the US lifts its 145% tariffs. The list of exempted products also appears to be growing. Reuters reported that China has waived tariffs on US ethane imports after major processors requested exemptions, as the US is their only supplier.
China has also lifted sanctions on 4 current and 1 former member of the European Parliament, as well as its subcommittee on human rights. According to a parliament official, European Parliament President Roberta Metsola is expected to announce the change later today. The sanctions being lifted were initially imposed in 2021 in response to Western measures against Chinese officials over the mass detentions of Muslim Uyghurs. In response, the European Parliament halted the ratification of the EU-China Comprehensive Agreement on Investment, which had aimed to put EU companies on an equal footing in China. With US tariffs hitting most of China's exports, Beijing is seeking closer economic and political ties with Europe. When asked about reports that Beijing would lift sanctions, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun said China-Europe trade relations were complementary and mutually beneficial, adding that he hoped both sides would meet each other halfway to strengthen exchanges. He also welcomed more visits from EU lawmakers to China. China's President Xi Jinping visited Shanghai and called for the city to accelerate efforts to turn itself into a technological and innovation hub with global influence. According to state news agency Xinhua, Xi also urged the city to expand its exploration of AI models.
Other than that, he also said that more supportive policies for the technology should be rolled out. Although Xi did not reference the trade war started by US President Donald Trump during his visit, the implicit message was clear. China can develop its own leading technology and has alternative markets. Xi's Shanghai trip, his first to China's main international financial hub since November 2023, comes at a time when the tariff fight with the US has raised the stakes for global economic growth. This as Beijing pursues AI development in the wake of the global success of Chinese AI startup DeepSeek.
President Vladimir Putin is open to peace in Ukraine. However, the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov says the conflict is so complicated that the rapid progress which Washington wants is difficult to achieve.
He added that Putin is willing to hold direct talks with Ukraine, but Kiev has yet to respond. US President Donald Trump, who says he wants to be remembered as a peacemaker, has repeatedly vowed to end what he calls the bloodbath in Ukraine, a war his administration now describes as a proxy conflict between the US and Russia. Trump said on Tuesday he thought that Putin wants to stop the war in Ukraine, adding that if it was not for Trump, then Russia would try to take the whole of Ukraine. But he declined to say whether the US would continue military aid if it left the talks. Putin's decision to send tens of thousands of troops into Ukraine in 2022 triggered the worst crisis between Moscow and the West since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, the closest the Cold War powers came to nuclear war.
At LlamaCon 2025, Meta's first ever AI developer conference, CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Microsoft chairman and CEO Satya Nadella discussed the future of AI development, emphasizing the increasing role of AI in software creation. Nadella notes that 20 to 30% of Microsoft's code is now generated by AI, while Zuckerberg predicts that AI will handle half of Meta's software development within a year.
The big one that we're focused on is building an AI and a machine learning engineer to advance the llama development itself, right? Because I mean, our bet is sort of that in the next year, probably, I don't know, maybe half the development is going to be done by AI as opposed to people, and then that will just kind of increase from there.
That to me is, I think, one of the biggest roles of open source, right? Which is to be able to take, let's say, some of your even inside of the llama family, taking a large model, and then to be able to distill it into a smaller model that has even that same model shape, I think is a big use case.
Meta Platforms on Tuesday announced an application programming interface in a bid to woo businesses to more easily build AI products using its Llama artificial intelligence models. Llama API, which was unveiled earlier during the event, will help Meta go up against APIs offered by rival model makers, including Microsoft-backed OpenAI, Alphabet's Google, and emerging low-cost alternatives such as China's DeepSeek. The company also released a standalone AI assistant app earlier on Tuesday. It plans to test a paid subscription service of its AI chatbot in the second quarter, Reuters reported in February. Meta releases its Llama models largely free of charge for use by developers, a strategy CEO Mark Zuckerberg previously stated will pay off in the form of innovative products, less dependence on would-be competitors, and greater engagement on the company's core social networks.
In other news, amid rising tensions between Pakistan and India, an expert says a limited war could be possible in the aftermath of a deadly militant attack on tourists in Kashmir. Tensions are simmering between the two nuclear-armed nations as India said there were Pakistani elements to the attack that killed 26 men at a tourist spot in Indian Kashmir last week.
However, Islamabad has denied any role and called for a neutral investigation. Meanwhile, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has vowed to pursue and punish the attackers.
India seems determined to initiate a war, but it can be a limited war, or can't be full-scale war because both countries are nuclear power, nuclear forces. So there are very feeble chances that a full-scale war can be initiated, can be started. But definitely border skirmishes and border violations are expected, and India is currently doing that. South Asia can be in danger due to India's aggression. And India is also suffering. India would definitely suffer more than Pakistan. India would be losing $1 billion due to trade closure, which Pakistani side have taken measures.
Pakistan's Information Minister Ataullah Tarar said that the country has credible intelligence that India intends to launch a military strike within the next 24 to 36 hours. Since the attack, the nuclear-armed nations have unleashed a raft of measures against each other, with India suspending the critical Indus Waters Treaty and Pakistan closing its airspace to Indian airlines.
That brings us to the end of AWANI Tonight and the end of this program. As we turn the page, we invite you to join us tomorrow for the launch of AWANI International, your new destination for sharp, in-depth analysis of the rivalries, strategies and the shifts behind the power affairs driving the new global order. We also would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank you, our viewers, for your trust, loyalty and continued support. That is all for now. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Good night.